All right, good morning, everyone. We're going to get started. This is the Superintendent's monthly media briefing for October 2019. Just rules of the road, we're going to cover two key topics this morning: pedestrian safety and the rollout of the external review of after-school supervision. Then we're going to take some questions, and then we'll be done by 11, if not sooner. Save your questions until the end, and let's make through this. And then if there are things left at the end, I'm happy to clear up little ifs and ands at the end. So without further ado, Superintendent Jack Smith.
Good morning. How's everyone this morning? First of all, I'd like to introduce Dr. Monifa McKnight, who is with us today. She is our Deputy Superintendent for the school system, and she joined us the 1st of August. And I am really, really happy that she's joined us. And so I will welcome you here to your first of our monthly press conferences. So first thing I want to talk about today is pedestrian safety. This will be a morning of talking about student safety, it looks like. And certainly this is a community issue, but we are concerned, deeply concerned about our students getting to and from school safely, getting wherever they need to go every day of the week and every weekend safely. And our role in that is to make sure we are vigilant with all of our procedures and processes and systems, and also to teach students about pedestrian safety, something we've been engaged in with for decades, and we want to be ever more explicit, more specific, more intentional about how we do that. And we've been working closely for the past year with our partners, and much of the work is going to require that the county government, the school system, the community advocates come together and push on the state highway administration and other organizations in the state to make sure that we have good crosswalks, that we have good plans for many of our busy intersections and roads across the county. So we really are very interested and very willing and eager and doing a lot of work with our community partners. One thing I would ask all of our community members to do is be aware of the school buses. An inordinate number of people, I'm sad and upset and angry to say, pass school buses while the red lights and the stop sign and the arm and all of those things are down. I was at an intersection here in the county last week, headed to one of our elementary schools, and I pulled up behind a significant amount of traffic, stopped for the bus, and somebody came to a point in the road where you can make a U-turn, and they were actually going to make a U-turn and pass this stopped bus with all of the lights on. And a very thoughtful, intentional driver pulled up so they couldn't get through and stopped one of our own local drivers from passing a bus. And I observed this 2 weeks ago right here in Montgomery County. It needs to stop. All students need to be kept safe. The Montgomery County Council, the Parent-Teacher Association, the Montgomery County Pedestrian, Bicycle, and Traffic Safety Advisory Committee are hosting an Arrive Alive, a Safe Routes to School forum on October 19th from 8:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. at Northwood High School. It's a free event, and we hope to bring together parents, students, and members of the community to discuss ways to ensure walking and bus routes for students in the county are safe. Very important. We've done a lot of work in our curriculum around this issue also for students of all ages. It's just a critically important issue and one that we should call attention to every chance we get. And for heaven's sakes, everyone, watch for those big yellow buses, because when you see a big yellow bus, it's highly likely that there are students in the vicinity, on the bus, in the area. It's critical. We also want to brief the community on the fact that our external review came out this morning. We had hoped to have it out at the end of June, beginning of July. We weren't able to make that deadline because we wanted to make sure that we gave the external reviewers all the space they needed to follow up on any and all topics that they wanted to cover, and also, more importantly, because we've been working closely with the state's attorney's office for the past 10 months. And critically important that we stay aligned with them and that we are a good partner. We've been very responsive to them, and they're continuing to finalize their report, but we thought we needed to put ours out now. It's complete and ready to go. It's been sent out to the community. This is in reference to the sexual assault in the boys' locker room at Damascus High School, but what we did is go much broader, and we looked not only at Damascus High School's specific athletic programs, but the entire school community, and then across our entire community. The external reviewers did comprehensive work for hundreds of hours with literally hundreds and hundreds of people across the system, as well as external experts, panels of individuals, and reviewed information from many of the national and local organizations, as well as talking with many people in our school system. This effort was done by Wilmer Hale to look at the after-school supervision and the teaching and learning that goes on with our students and how we as a school system plan and make every effort to teach our students what they need to know in order to do well and have good positive experiences when they're in after-school activities and athletics. It was also to look at our policies and look at our practices and our systems that are in place. It was very important that we not interfere with the ongoing investigation with the state's attorney's office, but it did include our external reviewers sitting down with the state's attorney and talking with them about what they had found. And as they come to the end of their review in the coming weeks, then we'll all know more about what they're thinking and what they found. It had three key areas: fostering a positive culture, implementing robust supervision practices, and ensuring timely reporting of incidents and appropriate responses on the part of the school system. The review concluded that overall MCPS has fostered a generally positive culture around athletics and other extracurricular programs. MCPS has a robust set of district-wide regulations with respect to mandatory reporting requirements and procedures. It does identify areas for review and enhancements to strengthen supervision and safety for students participating in school-sponsored after-school activities. MCPS has taken a number of steps in recent months that address key issues identified in the external review. The steps include enhancing after-school supervision planning process at high schools to provide greater clarity for coaches and activity sponsors. It also includes launching the Student Athlete Leadership Council, which will work with MCPS leadership to develop an interactive student-led training for students on hazing, bullying, and harassment. I think this is particularly important, and this is one of the shifts we've seen in the past decade, and MCPS, certainly before I arrived here and continuing on from my time here, has been a leader in this area of using student voice. If you want to know what works with students, one really good strategy is to ask the students. And so this is part of what they're saying that we should do. We've established a partnership with the National Center for Sports Spectator Safety and Security to become a national leader in best practices regarding after-school security, safety, and supervision. We're working on looking at how our central office relationship is structured with our schools and how schools do the work internally, and how all of those things need to be collaborative. They need to be completed by teams coming together to do the work in a really thoughtful, intentional way to make sure students know and understand what the situations that they might encounter are, how to report when they have a problem, to make sure that we are responsive to those. And certainly prevention is the first goal always, but being responsive is also critically important. This is going to involve some budgetary initiatives that we're working on right now for our FY21. That's next July 1st's budget for next year. And so when I do my budget release, December 18th, that will certainly involve initiatives in this area. And we're using current resources to continue to expand and extend the work we're doing this year. We also want to revise our Memorandum of Understanding with the Interagency Coordinating Board, the ICB, for the community use of public facilities. Now, you may know and be aware that our schools are used extensively by the community, and there is an entire organization that makes our schools available after the school day ends. So the intersection of students in a school building is very complicated in Montgomery County, as well as adults, because you can have student sports teams, student activity groups, sponsored by the school. You can have external community groups. You can have students coming in for other activities, for faith-based organizations, or for youth advocacy organizations, or for all sorts of things. So you have a lot of activity in schools in Montgomery County, and schools are meant to be used, and we use them, but we have to make sure they're well supervised. So one of our areas of work will be to upgrade that memorandum of understanding with the ICB to make sure that they are well supervised and secure after school. Also to clarify the reporting procedures for bullying and hazing, and provide an annual briefing to the Board of Education on the state of athletics and after-school programming in general. So a lot of work going on in this area. This work has been occurring for decades across school systems in this country, and we're in an era now where student safety has really become a very important part of what we do as an organization in really post-Columbine days, the late 90s. And so we need to continue to enhance that and work on that and always make sure that we look for continuous improvement in that area. We think the supervision strategies will help us make sure that students have a more positive experience and that we will be able to keep them safer. And we also think that having students know and understand the expectations for their behavior, for telling someone when something does happen, for intervening early, and making sure adults know how to respond and set clear expectations. Because the tone from the top is particularly important. Now, people like to say, well, the top, that's the superintendent. That's literally hundreds and hundreds of people across the system that touch our more than 165,000 students every day. That's principals across 208 schools, athletic directors, activity leaders, resource teachers who run big departments of content area teachers and specialists. That's the people who work in all of our schools providing the professional support services. There are many, many people engaged in making sure that students are safe, and MCPS does a very good job of this. We can do better. We do good work for lots and lots of kids. We can do better, and that's always got to be our message. So we encourage everybody in the community to review the findings, to talk about them, think about them, and we're going to continue to work on them and engage many, many stakeholders around next steps, around things that we do this year, and engage our principals and our teachers and our teacher leaders, our support professionals, our PTA and community advocates, our many groups that use our schools around the ICB system, all of those people coming together on an ongoing basis. This is not an event. This is a never-ending body of work that we must pay attention to every day, all the time, in terms of keeping students safe. We have a lot of best practices out there, and with all of the work that our external reviewers did, we have lots of things to think about and work on in our system. The fact is that they didn't find that one place has it all figured out. Lots and lots of good information, but everyone's working on this idea. And it is really the mark of a community, how we keep our children safe. It does say something about a community, and this community has a real commitment to student learning, student well-being, and student safety. And so I think it's critically important that we spend our time making sure that students are ready to learn, that they're safe and well taken care of, so that when they walk off the stage with a diploma, they are prepared to interact with all of those people out in the world that they run into, and that they understand where lines are, and they understand what expectations are for living in a civil and good and just society. And that's got to be one of our ongoing efforts forever in public education. So I think I'll stop there, and we'll move to the next phase of the press conference.
So we'll start taking questions. Just raise your hand if you have a question.
Dr. Smith, thank you. I understand that you guys were somewhat limited given the state's attorney's office's investigation, but given that this review did not look into the incident that spurred the review in the first place, do you have any concerns that perhaps this isn't comprehensive enough, or do you have any plans to go back and look into the incident specifically once the state attorney's office completes their review?
We actually did look into the incident specifically. If you remember, we had a press conference here last spring where we talked very specifically about the incident.
Oh, pardon me, I mean the Wilmer Hale. The Wilmer Hale review did not look into the incident specifically.
Yes, and so what we asked Wilmer Hill to do is come in after that review was complete and look at everything. And there was no way that they couldn't have heard about the incident specifically when they spent a lot of time at Damascus, and they've shared with us everything they heard, and it's in the report.
This says, though, that they did not look into that. I'm just basing it off.
No, I understand that, but what I'm saying is that in a conversation at Damascus High School about student supervision and security, that topic had to come up. They did not purposefully examine it, but we looked into it deeply, and we gave a very clear set of messages last spring about what had happened and what we thought needed to happen.
Yeah, I'm not trying to split hairs. I guess just more specifically, I'm talking about how they were not able to speak with victims or alleged perpetrators or their families. Wilmer Hale was not.
No, and we are not engaged in that either. That's the state's attorney. We looked at it from the employee side and from the school side last spring, very, very closely, last winter and spring.
Thank you. What's your takeaway about the prevalence of these kinds of incidents? It seems like that was one of the major focuses of the report, was to sort of look at how, what the culture is like in high schools and how often this happens. It was a little vague maybe in parts, or can you talk about that?
Sure, and one of the things we've committed to is keeping data about these sorts of incidents, because the data comes at various levels. A situation like this, everyone's talking about this is an incident that, and then less severe situations oftentimes result in them being handled at the school, but we were constructing right now a system to keep track of that kind of information. Wilmer Hill said there's generally a positive culture, that students often don't know when something goes from good-natured kidding to hazing, and they also don't understand when something can move from hazing or that kind of inappropriate behavior to something really inappropriate and bad. And so that's something we want to use as we think about how to explicitly teach our students and our adults how to respond, how to prevent, and then how to report if it does happen. But we do want to keep a record, and so that we have a clear idea system-wide of what does happen in situations.
So do you feel this has happened often before, or something akin to it has happened often before?
You mean this specific event? I feel
Precisely like Damascus, but other incidents of hazing?
I think hazing has gone on since there have been human beings on Earth, and I think it has happened, and it does happen, and our goal is to diminish and eliminate it, and continue to teach and use the tools we have available, and that would be teaching and learning, supervision, interaction and relationships with adults and students, all of those things coming together to reduce bad experiences for students in schools.
I saw that this report didn't involve interviewing any of the suspects or the victims. With regard to staff at Damascus High School, was former Principal Kraus or any of the other administrators or football staff interviewed?
We did extensive interviews last spring, preceding our actions we took and our press event last spring. Extensive information in the school system around what actually took place.
So the Wilmer Hale, though, didn't interview?
No, it was a general review of the culture of the specific high school and of the system and what they found across the system.
And I saw a report that Wilmer Hale cost around $250,000. Is that accurate?
I think so.
And the only other question that I had presently, in talking with, I presume, dozens of students across the system, were there certain stories that really resonated with you? The kid at Wooten that said this, and if you don't mind sharing some of those?
So when you say specific stories, what the things that resonated with me from the Wilmer Hale report involve themes, because they went in and shared with students that your identity will be anonymous, you'll be private. And so it was not shared with me, so-and-so at this school said this, or this group at this school. But they did say some things I think that we all need to pay attention to in our community, in our school system, in school systems across the state and nation. And that is, first and foremost, the tone at the top is incredibly important. And that tone isn't just a negative tone, that's a positive tone, that we need to be, kids said, that adults need to be vigilant and really pay attention. And when students are trying to tell something to adults, adults need to listen closely and seek to understand what the student's actually trying to say to me as an adult. That when we come together as adults, and the adults said this too, when we come together as adults, that it makes all the difference if we're all working together for the same purpose, that the principal's office, the security team leader, the department chairs, the athletic director, the head coaches are all on the same page, if you will. And that sounds so simple, but we all know from our own organizations it's not always easy. I'm sure I know nothing about your organizations, but getting everybody to work together on behalf of an effort is very difficult. And we also heard that we need to teach students the difference between team building and positive camaraderie, and when that crosses the line into hazing or things that everybody's laughing, even the kid who might be on the receiving end, but he or she is not really laughing on the inside, and that we need to teach students that our behaviors and our actions have a real effect on one another. And that's a consistent message we're hearing across the society too, if you think about the Me Too movement and many others, that it's a shift in our civil understanding of how human beings treat one another, and schools need to pay close attention to that. Those are the big messages I heard and I read in this report.
Dr. Smith, so I don't even know if this works. Okay. So in speaking with students over the past couple of months, they talked about this culture of hazing that exists at Damascus High School and has existed for years. Do you know how long that culture existed? Well, actually, 3 questions here. What would you say to the student who is concerned, who's fearful of joining a sports team because they know of this underground hazing operation that takes place, and they're fearful? And then I'll follow up.
Okay, well, and I did not receive that information, so I'm not sure where you have that information from, but I'm not familiar with a culture of hazing and fearful. But if a student is fearful, that we need to make sure that we say to them and that we teach them and that they understand clearly and deeply that if there is a problem, you need to say something, and then we as adults need to be really well prepared to respond to that in the right way. And that's been happening for decades, for centuries with students and adults. We need to increase the likelihood that it will happen every single time, so the student will say something and get a positive response from the adult, and it'll be handled in a way that will create a better experience for the student, not in a way that will create a less desirable experience for the student.
So not familiar of a culture of hazing at the school?
That is not what the report found in terms of what we're releasing today.
And then can you say again, has anyone been let go because of this? And after this, external review, will there be more people to come that will be losing their jobs because of this incident?
We handled our personnel actions last spring, and there were multiple personnel actions, and I shared with the community last spring that the athletic director and the junior varsity coach were let go.
Any more to come after this?
Well, if anything that comes up always causes a new action, but at this point, based on this report, no.
So my question is, has there been anybody disciplined in any of the other schools, similar to the woman before me's question, related to this investigation?
No, not related to this. There obviously have been people disciplined in other schools for other actions over time, but not related to this. And it is important that I share with you that the external review did speak with the Damascus staff, the Damascus High School staff extensively, all manner of staff, not just the administrator or the leadership of the school.
What challenges did MCPS encounter in terms of people being fearful, perhaps, to talk about some of their experiences?
Well, that's why one of the reasons that we asked the external reviewers to do this work, so they could speak to them, so people could speak frankly, and I believe they did do that, and that their privacy has been guarded and made sure that whatever they said is a general statement, not specific to any individual.
Okay, and then with regard to your comment about children might be in some interaction that might be team building versus hazing and kids might be laughing, but not on the inside. Where did you get that from, and what are you trying to say?
Well, I've spent 40 years, most of them in schools, and I'm sure you've been in situations where people are kidding someone and everyone's laughing, but you can tell the person being kidded is not really finding it humorous. So that was just an observation about life. It wasn't specific to any incident in this report. But I do think it is a problem for adults, and if you watch the media, you certainly would see that on the television all the time. Adults treating one another badly, and oftentimes it moves into hazing, bullying, all sorts of things. So we have a lot of role models in our society that are not good for our children, and we just need to be aware of that.
When it comes to the recommendations for supervision of student athletes, is there much variance from what you announced, I guess, back in the spring when you imposed sort of, I guess, interim policies of sorts?
Yes, the variance would be moving forward about being more intentional and more consistent. It will involve a restructuring of some of what we do after school in our relationship as in both internally as schools work and in our relationship with the ICB and how schools are available to the community. And we just need to work through all of that with the ICB, and also need to work and make it very explicitly clear to everyone, to adults, that it's all of our job to supervise our students. I spent many, many years as an advisor, a coach, a director after school, working with students. And these are young adults. They're 15, 16, 17, 14, 18 years old. So we have to give them some latitude, but we also have to be there in the moment so that we intervene and we teach and we make sure that things don't happen. It's not like supervising a kindergarten, first or second grade field trip, but it's also not like the dorm room at College Park where students are completely independent and free to do whatever they want. We have to find that good middle ground every day, all the time in our student activities and athletics programs for these young adult growing adolescents.
And have you given much thought as to what you expect sort of the hazing lessons and education aspect of it to look like yet? Or?
We're working with the national partners. We're also talking with our students about what's relevant, what will make sense to them, what they will be engaged in. In one conversation, one of the staff members said, that students will also sometimes say, oh, that's so 2000. Well, 2000 doesn't seem that long ago to me, but to our students, most of them weren't born in 2000. And so we have to stay current. And so one of the things we're doing is talking a lot to our students, and we're relying on the national organizations that are doing a lot of work around student voice. What does engage you? What catches your attention? What makes you think about how you treat others, how they treat you? And then also structuring our schools so that adults are working very closely together and making sure that students are well supervised with some level of autonomy so they can learn and grow and develop as young adults.
I have two follow-up questions. One, I see the bullet point here where it talks about trying to clarify the reporting of hazing and bullying. And I know that that was an issue that the victims' families had raised in the Damascus incident with the texting going on between some top-level people at Damascus. Specifically, what is the clarification you want staff at schools to know should something like Damascus or even lesser come to their attention about reporting it?
Well, and one of the problems that everyone faces, and you certainly see it in your work every day, is when something happens, as it unfolds, then you have a growing awareness and understanding of what actually happened. And so what we would expect is that our staff is well trained and that we also keep close accounting and understanding of what did happen, and that we have a way to know what an initial report and how that's different from an interim report and how that's different from what we finally know kind of as the complete situation in any circumstance, in any school, any time. And I think sometimes that the initial report becomes the truth and everything else after that is not, and we want to make sure that we are gathering information from across schools so that we know and understand what the full effect of something was, as well as who knew what when and how that happened and all those sorts of things.
The other question that I had, many of us in this room covered this case extensively and sat through hours upon hours of court hearings. Some of the families of the victims feel the real issue at hand here was that one individual had been given chance upon chance upon chance to prove themselves. And speaking not about that person individually, but just looking at a school system of 165,000 kids, when you have, is there a learning lesson here about restorative justice and possibly giving one too many chances?
Well, I don't know if it's one too many chances. I'd have to think about that, but I think it does speak to us. So part of that communication of that team in that school has to be that if a student needs supervision, additional supervision during the day, then they need it after school. They need it anytime they're engaged with the school, and may well need it in other places in their life. And so I think that's been an overall learning for the system. And not that that doesn't happen on a regular basis and a lot, but that it needs to happen consistently and all the time. I think that's the learning I would bring from that statement. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, just following up on the reporting issue. So are there changes that you anticipate in how incidents like this are reported? It just strikes me that in your child sexual abuse policies, the expectation is to report even a potential allegation so much more quickly than what happened in this case, where you described an unfolding of understanding. But in a child sex abuse context, that would have been reported so much more quickly. Mm-hmm. Are you still holding to a different standard with sexual assault cases, or how do you look at the difference in how the school system approaches these two different kinds of incidents?
No, we have always and consistently expect something to be reported as soon as it's known. If it's not known, you can't report it. And that's really the challenge of what is known and what is not known. And so you can't report something. If you suspect it, you need to report it. If you don't suspect it, and so that really is the question that I think you're asking. And so.
But when the policies were changed, the emphasis was on err on the side of reporting. Mm-hmm. Even if something is sort of, leaning in that direction, you should report. And in this case, the presentation was, well, we didn't know exactly. There wasn't quite enough evidence. It was an unfolding thing.
It wasn't a matter of
two very different standards.
Wasn't not enough evidence. There was no knowledge of it that night in the way that we understood it the next morning as a system. So
will there be changes, or are you keeping to the same way?
No, we're asking those teams to come together, and even if it's 8 o'clock at night, to look into something if there's any reason at all to ask any more questions across the system.
Now that both the internal and external reviews have been completed, what's the main message that you want to get across to concerned parents?
That student safety is critical, that our students need to have explicit opportunities to learn. Our adults need explicit opportunities to teach and to continue their own learning around how students treat one another, around how we supervise students, around how we create a culture in our schools of student well-being, and that when something does, to Ms. St. George's question, when something does present itself, that we have a clear reporting path and clear known responses on the part of the school and the system. And we can continue to refine those and work on those to make sure that happens, in everything we do.
Last two questions over here. Kathleen, thank you.
So I wanted to ask, what are some things that and if any, that MCPS is going to be doing involving the counseling or psychological services departments, given the fact that, for example, some of the students who later said that they had been groomed, they initially told counselors they hadn't suffered any trauma before?
Well, one of the things that we want to do, as I just said, is to continue our adult learning around how to question students, how to identify that when something has occurred, even if they're not acknowledging it. It's always that human interaction that's so critically important, and across our system, that we want to be sure that our folks are talking with students in a way that elicits trust and confidence of the student, and hopefully gets the student to share with us what it is that is the problem, not the problem they want to be known, or not the problem, but the real problem, and then that we are quick and able to respond to that. And one of the ways we're doing that is by asking students to talk with us and think about how should we present information to you? How should we ask you questions? What works for you? What makes sense to you in any situation? And students can share that, because the world's different in 2019 than it was in 2009 or 2001, and as it changes, then we have to ask those questions of students.
I just wanted to ask, can you give an example of one of the worst situations that was found in terms of lack of student supervision?
Well, I think the situation we're talking about right now is the example I would use in terms of Damascus. We had 25 minutes there without students being supervised.
So that was the worst that was found?
That is certainly the worst one that I've encountered since I've been in Montgomery County.
Thank you. Okay, so a little in the weeds here, but there were 5 schools, Damascus, Seneca Valley, Blair, Whitman, and WJ, that were involved in this review. How were those schools chosen to be part of this, and does that provide a comprehensive enough look at the system as a whole?
They were randomly chosen, but that doesn't mean that the reviewers didn't talk to students and adults from across the system. And so those schools were looked at from the school way of doing business practices, systems, but students and adults were talked to from across the entire county in many different forums, as well as lots of experts, both in panel and in expert review of materials around this topic.
All right, that's it. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.